y'all, welcome back to the farm. I'm Tracy and this is Just to Get Farms. Today is part 2 of the garden tour and I'm going to be walking you through the potager garden. As you come around the side of the house, which this is the cottage garden in front of the house, and on the side of the house, wrapping the house is my cottage gardens, because I want you to feel like when you walk down these pathways that you're just surrounded by gardens. So as you're coming this way, there's that October glory. The top died, so I had to cut it out. Now it's going to be a funky little tree, but I'm leaving it because they're beautiful. It's October glory. So as you're coming around this way, this is how you walk to the front door, right? So that's the cottage gardens on that side. And then over here is the border of the potager garden. And it's full of herbs and roses and perennials. So as you're walking down the pathway to our front door, I just want you to feel like you're surrounded by flowers and herbs and roses and food and beauty. This is my gate, my iron gate. Jean's mom and dad gave me, which I absolutely love. And on each side of it is my Clotilde Soupert climbing roses that my friend Lacey gave me. And right where that post is, all the way down at that point, and at that point all the way down will be our fence. Because we have to fence in this whole potager garden because of the deer and animals and all kinds of wildlife out here. So that's eventually going to be a fence running all down, and then this border will be in front of that fence, and then behind the fence is the vegetable garden. Along the border of the potager garden, these are some of the plants that I have. There's rosemaries, and that is Sweet William Dianthus. That is a Baptisia. I believe it's purple smoke or blue. I can't remember which one it is, but it has pretty little blue blooms on it. It's so pretty. I love the foliage on it. It gets about 2.5, 3 feet tall. It's really pretty. This is a garden sage. This is just culinary sage. Look at the blooms on that. Isn't that pretty? The pollinators are just adoring it. That's why I left it and let it go to flower. The pollinators are just having a fit over it. These are Echinacea coneflowers in here. There's one starting to bloom. They're kind of getting crowded out by this garden sage. This is Spanish lavender. The bloom on Spanish lavender is different, but this one can take our heat and humidity a lot better, so it grows really good here. This is one of my roses along this border. These roses were chosen very carefully because of the color of them, but also because of the name of them. A potager garden just needed roses that had eloquent names. So this is Marchesa Bacella, double pink. It is a repeat bloomer, spring, summer, and fall. Fragrant. In front of Marchesa I have catmint, more garden sage, more Spanish lavender. These little guys are garden phloxes. I believe this one is Texas pink. They'll bloom in the summertime in the middle of July and August when it is steaming hot and everything else wants to just fizzle out. That garden phlox is kicking. Thymes, more garden sage. This rose is Monsier Tillier. It's so pretty. Smells so good. Repeat bloomer. And these are all antique roses. About 3 to 4 feet. More catmint. More Sweet William. This is lavender and this is Provence. I mean, it's done really well. It's doing good. This is more garden phlox, and this one is David. It's gonna get about 3 or 4 feet high, and it's white. More thyme, rosemary and chives, but I'm about to pull these up and move them somewhere else because I want to get little upright germander. There's my roses. I kind of pruned roses a little bit yesterday, and I had those to put in a vase, and I lost them, and there they are. I'm going to move this chives and rosemary because I want to put upright germander here. It's a wonderful little herb. They used it a lot in English knot gardens to make the little borders in English knot gardens, and it's a great little herb. It's evergreen. It only gets like 1.5 feet tall and about that wide, and I want to use it and put all around my rocks here, just to kind of make me like a little evergreen little border here on this side of the rock. And then probably right in there, I might plant some more lavender or something. I don't know what I'm gonna put in there. Something that flowers, something that's really pretty will go inside that little evergreen border. This garden is just so like wild. I mean, there's so many different things going on behind it and beside it. And I just feel like I need a little bit of structure right there. So I want to put that upright germander there. I'm just waiting on it. Shelly's growing some in the greenhouses, and I'm just waiting on it. Clotilde Soupert, my beautiful climbing rose. I know I've shared this multiple times because I just absolutely love her. I love that sweet bloom. So fragrant, repeats spring, summer, fall. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then on this side of the gate, down this border, I'm going to do the same thing with the upright germander there. I've put in a couple of little borage plants that I grew from seeds. Borage is an amazing little plant with beautiful blue flowers. Pollinators love it. Oregano. This is another garden phlox. It's, I believe this one's common purple. About 3 feet tall. Purplish pink flowers. Lavender. Catmint. This rose is Maggie. Maggie is a beautiful little sweet pink rose. Fragrant, return, double blooms. This is another garden phlox, and I think this one's John Fannick. It's white with a little purple eye. Lavenders, volunteer Johnny jump ups. Not really even sure where they come from. Thymes. These are coneflowers, getting ready to bloom. Echinacea, coneflowers. That is another Baptisia and Sweet William and Spanish lavender, and I love this combination. I love it, especially with Belinda's Dream in the background. This rose. This is Belinda's Dream. Belinda's Dream is a shrub form. It's an earth kind rose, about 3 or 4 feet tall. And Farmer's Dream that I have growing over there on my chicken coop is like a cousin to Belinda's Dream. Fragrant, beautiful. Look at the buds. This is a yarrow. This is Achillea Millefolium, which is a medicinal yarrow. Yarrow was also called the wound heal plant. They used it a lot in Civil War time to heal wounds, to stop bleeding. It really stops bleeding really well. There's lavender, and this is Eucalyptus. It's kind of sad. I just put it in the ground. But this is a reseeding annual, and it's very similar to Queen Anne's lace. But it's called Eucalyptus, and it's really pretty. I'm hoping that it's going to flower and go to seed and reseed itself in my garden here. We added these 2 railroad ties in this portion of the garden this year. So we're coming to the end of it, right down there. And that is bee balm that I dug up from the coop garden and transplanted over here. This is clover that we sowed just to try to keep this from washing off until we can get a border along the back. I transplanted some Sweet William over here. And I've got a eucalyptus right here. From this point on is my medicinal herb garden is going to be all down this way. Medicinal herbs and pollinator attractants. So that is my eucalyptus. I have two little dwarf butterfly bushes here, there, and there. I think this is called raspberry swirl, maybe. But these only get about 3-4 feet tall. So they're going to be really pretty here, help attract butterflies and pollinators. These are little California poppies, Sweet William. This is Clary Sage, and that's Clary Sage. And then as you go down, that is what is in the progress of becoming my medicinal herb garden. So this is the entrance to the potager garden right across from the house. If you're new to our channel and you haven't heard me say this before, potager is a French-inspired style garden. It means the soup pot. It was always a garden that was planted near their kitchen. They could just come out their kitchen, walk into their garden, and just pick a diversity of fruits and vegetables and flowers and herbs and whatever they wanted for their meal or for their home, for their centerpieces on their table. They would just walk out of their kitchen into their grocery store and harvest what they were going to have for that meal for the day. So this is my version of a potager garden. I am totally not French. I'm about as southern as you can possibly get. And what most people call these kind of gardens in Alabama is kitchen gardens. But why would I not call it a potager garden? There is just something so incredibly romantic about that, that's what this had to be called. So welcome to my potager garden. This is the potager. So as you enter the gate, we've got these two tunnels that we've built here and on down that way. We built these out of cattle panel trellises. There's 2 cattle panel trellises on each tunnel. And we lifted them off the ground about 2 feet so it'd make it high enough you could walk under. I asked for suggestions in one of my videos of what I should grow on these because my intention when we built these was to grow food on them. But when we got them built, I just felt like they really needed beautiful roses climbing on them. So I asked you guys suggestions and I got some amazing suggestions, some wonderful thoughts and ideas. And what we concluded and decided to do was on this first trellis, we're growing roses. So on this end, that is Rosa multiflora carnea there and there. And this is a beautiful little cluster rose. It's so pretty. It has the darker pink and the lighter pink and white blooms on it all at one time. They're little clusters, so fragrant. It just smells like heaven. Like really, it smells so good. And the foliage just makes like a great cover along a fence or a trellis or a space. It just like really covers it. So that's really why I went with this one, because it's going to really cover this whole entire trellis thick with green foliage. Now this is only a spring bloomer. It only blooms in the springtime. It will not repeat summer and fall. But the wonderful thing about spring blooming roses is their show in the spring is just magnificent. And this rose right here, even though it's just a spring bloomer, it has to be in the garden because it smells so good. The foliage cover on it is amazing. This thing will grow 20 plus feet And the spring show is just amazing. Like I said, I really wanted that cover, that thick foliage cover over this archway. But I also need repeat blooms. So on this corner here and on that corner back there, I'm going to choose a repeat blooming rose to grow in with it. So as you enter the archway, you'll have a repeat bloom that's coming up this way and going up the back way that way. I really am considering Gertrude Jekyll's climbing rose. One of my sweet viewers suggested that I use Gertrude Jekyll climber, and I just really need Gertrude Jekyll in this garden. I mean, she has to find a place in my garden. So it's a David Austin rose, and I looked it up, and it's like $30 for one bare root rose, and they're out of stock right now. So I'm debating if I'm going to wait on that or if I'm going to choose somebody else to go there and use her maybe on my fence whenever I get my fence up. I haven't quite decided yet, but I'm definitely going to be getting a repeat bloomer to go on each end of this archway trellis. But I think that's really going to be beautiful together. Now the other arch trellis down there, a lot of you suggested muscadines. We're going to be growing muscadines in the permaculture orchard / edible forest. We've got our berm ready to plant those out there. So I decided to go with grapes here, bunch grapes, table grapes. Not only for the fruit, but also for the leaves, because we love stuffed grape leaves. So I decided to grow grapes here, and I've chosen 3 different varieties that are Pierce disease resistant. Being in central Alabama, we're very susceptible to Pierce's disease, which will just completely wipe out a grape arbor. So these are Pierce disease resistant. They're gonna have seeds, but that's okay. They'll do well here. This one is Foxy Lottie, which is actually, it was found in, I believe it was found in Tuskegee at a lady's home named Foxy Lottie. If I'm wrong, I'll correct myself at the bottom of the screen. But I know her name was Foxy Lottie, and this grape was just growing out there wild in her yard. And it did so well, hardly no disease or problems. It's a little purple, really tasty grape. So that one I know does really well here. This one is Stover. It's a little green grape, really sweet, really good. And then the 2 that I have on this side is Daytona. Daytona is a nice purple grape. So I'm excited about these growing up. We just planted these 2 weeks ago maybe. So I'm excited about these growing up this arch tunnel. It's going to be beautiful with clusters of grapes hanging from that and the foliage covering it. Now these are deciduous. They're going to lose their leaves in the winter, but I'm okay with that. It's still going to be beautiful. And the foliage on grapes and muscadines in the fall is beautiful. So I think this is going to be really cool. Just use your imagination for a minute. But eventually this one's going to be covered in roses, and you're going to walk under a tunnel of fragrant, beautiful roses. And you come to this container that's in the center of the pathway. And this is my olive trees. This is Arbequina olives, which will do well here and actually produce olives and fruit. So I've got my Arbequina olives in this container, surrounded by different culinary herbs. I've got oreganos and thymes and lavender and parsley and chamomile. I'm going to move my chives from the front entrance to these little beds. So I think this is so sweet and so significant. The olive tree just has a lot of spiritual significance and meaning. And to me and Jean, this is just symbolic and a reminder of, keeping God center of our lives, being the center of our garden and just keeping him the center of our lives, and just a reminder to give him thanks and praise every day when we walk by these olive trees for all the blessings and for all that he's done for us. So these have a lot of spiritual significance, the fact that I've got olive trees right in the center of the garden. So as you walk around this olive tree, then you come to the next arch tunnel, which will be covered in grapes and just clusters of bunch grapes and table grapes hanging from this archway. Is going to be wonderful. And then you come to the next container, which is also an olive tree and herbs. So I love that. I love the fact that the grape leaves, the olive tree, the herbs, we really love Mediterranean cuisine, and I'm looking so forward to making stuffed grape leaves with olives and feta and herbs straight from my garden. That is just going to be so fun. Now I'm backing up again and coming through the entrance again, just because I want you guys to, you know, have the picture, have the perspective. That's the bad thing about videos, is I can't really like show you everything all at one time. So I'm just trying to make sure you have the perspective of how the garden lays out. But as you walk in the gate on your right hand side, this is the very first bed. Now first let me tell you, I've got 9 of these beds out here. They're all pretty much the same size for the most part. They're like 40 feet by 14 feet, almost all of them are. Some's a little bigger, some's a little smaller, but for the most part. So I've got 9 of these beds, and I've very intricately detailed, designed, and planned what's going to be planted in each bed, because we are going to be doing crop rotation and a lot of companion planting and interplanting. So, you know, that calls for careful planning and design. And we're trying to have our garden spaces where we can grow year-round food and be able to grow some things in the fall and winter as well. So there's 9 beds, like I said, and this is the first bed. So in this first bed, I've got a few little cilantros coming up. These are artichokes. I've never grown artichokes or rutabagas before. So I just put 3 in the garden. I think it was around February I did these, maybe. February, I think the end of February, I put these 3 artichokes and about 5 rutabagas in the garden just to see, you know, how to do it. I don't even really know how to harvest them yet, but they're growing pretty good. I think they're doing pretty good. And what a neat texture. I mean, how cool is that to have that in the garden? I love artichokes. I love to eat them like on my salad and stuff. Like, I guess they're like roasted artichokes and then putting them on your salad and all. I love that. So I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to do that. Anybody has any suggestions, let me know. And this is my rutabagas, and we love rutabagas. I like to take them and like roast them and put them in with quinoa and maybe like some ground venison and some kale. We love to eat like that. We eat our butternut squash like that too, and rutabagas. So I'm excited, and I'm pretty sure it's time to harvest these, because I think if you leave them in the ground too long, they start getting bitter. But I wanted to wait until I did this little tour with you guys before I harvested it. So I'm gonna harvest one now and see what this looks like. So check that out, y'all. That is a big rutabaga. So I'm gonna, after I finish shooting this video, I'm gonna go ahead and harvest all of these and do something with them. I'm excited about this, and I hope I'm doing it right. I really should have researched this a little bit, but I hope that's what you do. If anybody knows anything different, let me know. These are new for me. But I only grew a few, and I'm loving how they're going, and I'm probably going to grow a lot more next year. When I get these rutabagas and artichokes up, I'm going to come back and plant something else in here. I might just fill this whole space up with basil, because I use a lot of basil, and you cannot have too much basil in your garden. You just cannot. On these tomato trellises, this is something a little different for us this year that I'm trying to grow up these cattle panel trellises, and so far I'm pretty happy with it. So the idea is you let them grow, you keep the bottom leaves all cut off of it. So as it's growing, I'm pruning off the bottom leaves, and then you tie it up to these cattle panel trellises. And because you're heavily pruning throughout the process, you can grow them close together like this. So I'm giving this a try. This is new for me too, so I'm going to see how this works. But I think I've got 16 tomatoes on this trellis. But in front of my tomatoes, I have marigolds. I've got a lot of interplanting going on. Good companions with each other. I've got marigolds. I've got nasturtiums. These all help to attract beneficials and to deter the bad pest. I've got onions growing in here. I've got purple and Texas sweet. So that's what I've got with these tomatoes. So they're all supposed to just help deter the bad pest and attract the good pest. I also have some carrots that are coming up. I sowed these carrots like in February. So I'm hoping I'm gonna actually be able to get some carrots and be able to eat them before it gets way too hot, but I don't know. I mean, it's already 90 degrees. So I don't know how that's gonna go. Down here on this whole corner down here, I've got yellow crookneck squash, zucchini, and with my squash and zucchini, I've planted nasturtiums and borage, which are great companion plants with your squash. Borage, first of all, is just an amazing little plant. The foliage on it is super cool. It gets about 2 feet high. It has beautiful blue little blooms. You can make borage tea out of it, so it has some health benefits medicinally. It is a dynamic accumulator, which what that means is it sends down a deep, deep taproot, and nutrients from the sub layers of the soil gets into the taproot, comes up through the plant, into the leaves, and then you can chop and drop the leaves and put at the base of your plant as like a fertilizer plant. So borage attracts pollinators like crazy. You can plant radishes, which I have little radishes. You can see them coming up, but they're also supposed to help deter squash bugs. So I've got radishes on all of my squash hills here. This is a carrot right here. I planted these carrots in the fall of last year, and I planted all of these rows with carrot seed. None of them come up but this one. Of course, you got to remember, if you watch the video on my seed planting, that a lot of my seeds are old, and those just didn't come up. I got one carrot here, or I think there may actually be 2 carrots there. And I know it's ready, but again, I wanted to wait for this little tour before I harvested this carrot. I'm so excited about eating this fresh carrot from the garden. There is nothing better than a carrot from the garden. Look at this beautiful carrot. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. I think this was the rainbow carrots. Oh my goodness, look at this carrot. It doesn't want to come up, and I do not want to break it. I should have brought my little tool and loosened up the soil around it. Let me see if I can get it. I got it. Look at that carrot. Oh my goodness. I'm so super stoked about eating this. I've been waiting on these 2 carrots. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have never successfully grown carrots before. I haven't tried that much. I grew some at our old garden where we used to live probably 7-8 years ago, and I wasn't patient enough, and I went out there and pulled them up, and I had little baby carrots, but they were good, but they were little baby carrots. But look at this. I'm so excited about this. This is going to be my lunch. Oh my gosh, y'all. I'm so super stoked about that carrot. I'm so excited about it. That's like my first successful carrot. I'm so happy about it. And I'm so happy that I could like share that moment with you guys. Only a fellow gardener would feel my emotion right now. Okay, back to the tour. So all of these are squash, and each squash hill has my little companion planting, my nasturtiums, radishes, and borage. Then as we move down to this row of tomatoes, I've got all kinds of things going on in here. So I've got the tomatoes back here. And by the way, these are all pretty much heirloom tomatoes. I've got Cherokee Purple, Mortgage Lifter, San Marzano Romas, Juliet Romas, which I love. I've got Millionaire cherry tomatoes. I've got Celebrity, which really isn't an heirloom, but it's just a great slicer. Gosh, I can't remember who all's in here. It's on my garden plan. I'll share more about which tomatoes which as we start getting fruit. And I cannot wait for a good old tomato sandwich. And these are carrots that I sowed in February. So like I said, hopefully I'm gonna get some. I've got radishes in here, garlic. All of this is garlic that I planted this past fall. It's gonna be time to harvest this pretty soon. So I've got little radishes that are in here, and they're ready to harvest too. I got some big radishes, some little, I got all different kinds of radishes in here. Carrots, radishes, garlic, onions. I've got onions. I just planted these onions. And then that's all in front of my tomatoes. I've got marigolds and nasturtiums with my tomatoes. Attracts pollinators, beneficials, deters bad pests. And these are just all good companions together. I think look at that sweet little radish. I love them. I really don't like to just eat radish raw. I'm not a spicy kind of eater, and I really don't like to eat them raw. But I heard, I think it was Jess on Roots and Refuge talking about roasting them. So I'm super excited to give that a try. I do kind of slice them up and put them in with my greens and kind of stir fry them with my greens, like my kale, turnips, stuff like that. But I'm going to try roasting them. Isn't that sweet? We're going to have a good dinner tonight. So that's pretty much it for this bed. Now on that back side, down that row behind the trellis, I've got garlic, some carrots are coming up, onions, and basil plants is planted on the back side of that. This is bed number 2, opposite of my tomato bed here. So down that row there, I had those heirloom walking onions from my friend Jane, and I just harvested all of those because I wanted to get my okra in the ground. Plus, I let it go past the prime. You're really not supposed to let them flower because then the onions get like hollow and hard. You really were supposed to harvest them before that. So some of them are great. Some of them hadn't went to flower yet. And then a lot of them I'm going to save to replant again in the fall. But these I'm leaving here because I want to try to take seed from them and see what I can do with that. So this first row here, I just sowed the seed a few days ago. And this is Alabama red okra that I got from Baker Creek. So that's what that is. That whole row is Alabama red okra. At the end down there, These are little green bell peppers. We love to use bell peppers in our stir fries and in our fajitas and stuff like that. So that's bell peppers, that's green bell peppers, and those peppers back there, there's a hot Thai pepper. Gene likes hot stuff. I do not, but he loves hot things. So I'm growing him a few hot peppers here. There's a cayenne pepper right there. There's a, I don't really know how to say this right. I'm afraid I'm gonna sound like I'm saying a bad word. A shishito. I don't know how to say it, but it's a sweet pepper. And there's the Thai hot pepper. And then I've got a little lunchbox orange pepper on the other side of that Chinese cabbage because I ran out of room down here. But these are rosemaries that I put in the ground. I'm going to make like a little rosemary wall going around there. But along the edges of these peppers, I've got some amaranth seed sowed. And the amaranth is supposed to be good companions with peppers and eggplants. Is supposed to help deter flea beetles and stuff. So I'm going to see how that works. But that first row of okra is Alabama red. This second row, all the way down on the side, is kind of going on the side of that lettuce. That's celery. That's spinach. So all the way down the side of that, I went ahead and sowed my okra seed because we're moving into hot weather and this is all about to bolt and go to seed. So I'm going to be harvesting all of this. We're going to be eating that lettuce. And then the celery, I'm not really sure. I've never grown celery. This is my first time to grow celery, so I'm not really sure what's going to take place with this. My spinach I'm about to harvest. I like to take that spinach and put it in the freezer, and then I can just use it to take out and either cook for like stuffed spinach shells with ricotta, or to throw in my smoothies. So I'm going to be harvesting that and putting it in the freezer. But the celery, I don't know. And that's one of the reasons why I've only grown a few of these things, because like usually lettuces and stuff, I'll grow those in a pot in the spring just to have some to eat. But lettuce, I grow a lot of it in the beds in the fall and moving into winter because they do better for a lot longer. But this year I wanted to try putting lettuce in my beds in the spring, and I only did a few because I want to see, and I did the same thing like with my broccolis and Brussels sprouts over there. I only did a few because I'm experimenting with seeing, you know, if I'm actually going to have time to get some production out of it before it starts getting too hot and bolting and going to seed. Because our Alabama springs are just like so unpredictable. A lot of times it seems like, especially in the past few years, we move straight from winter to summer. We hardly even have a spring. So that's one of the reasons why I've just got a few of these plants in here of some of this stuff, because I'm kind of testing the waters to see, am I actually going to have time to get some fruit from this plant before it goes to seed and bolt, so that I know if I want to use that space and take up that space in my beds during the spring. Now the fall, I definitely will be planting just a lot of these beds in lettuces and kales and spinach and celery and broccoli and Brussels sprouts and collards and turnips, and those are really cool season vegetables. It is May the 3rd or 4th here, and it's 90 degrees out here today. It's 90 degrees, y'all. It's only May. August is going to be extreme. We've been able to eat quite a few salads off of this little bit of lettuce here. So I know now that I can plant my lettuce in, I think I planted these in the 1st of March. I'll have to go back in my book and look. That's why I keep like detailed records in my garden journal. I'll know that in March of next year, I can plant a whole bunch of lettuce and I'll be able to get a lot of use out of it before it starts getting too hot. But I went ahead and sowed okra seed down this whole side here, because it won't be long and all of this lettuce and spinach and stuff will be coming out of the garden, and this okra will be coming up, and it'll have plenty of room. This okra down this row is called Jing Orange, and I think I'm saying that right. I don't know for sure, but Jing, it's probably not. The J's probably silent or something, but Jing Orange from Baker Creek, so I'm excited about that. I have like 4 different kinds of okra growing out here this year. I'm experimenting with a couple of new different kinds. We usually always plant Clemson spineless. I mean, that's just a tried and true okra, but I'm trying this Alabama Red, and I'm trying this Jing or Ying, or I don't know how to say it, orange. And of course I've got that climbing okra that I shared the story with you guys about in our planting the summer garden video, and I've got it, I'm trying to grow it on these trellises over here. Okra is a staple food group for Alabamians. I mean, you have got to have okra in your garden if you live in Alabama. It is so good. We like it. The best way to eat okra is fried, but we try not to eat a lot of fried foods. So I figured out the best way that we really like it is to just take it and chop it. Just cover it in olive oil and salt and pepper, herbs, whatever you got. Put it in the oven and bake it on like 400, and just bake it until it gets good and crispy. And then that's how we eat it. And it's almost like eating fried okra. It's not eating fried okra, but it's almost like eating fried okra, and it's not bad for you. It's good for you that way. So we like it like that. Now, I do not like boiled okra. I can't stand that slimy. I can't do that. But we like it baked. We like it fried. I like pickled okra. I've never made that before or done that before, but I had some last year, and I will be doing it this year. I like it like that. So anyway, okra is a staple in the southern garden. Now on this third row here, this is all arugula growing here, and you can see that's starting to go to seed and bolt. So it's going to get bitter when it does that. And these are all cool season crops. So when it starts getting hot, they start going to seed. They'll go to flower and then go to seed. And what they're doing is they're just reproducing themselves. When it starts getting really hot, then they're like telling themselves, hey, it's time to stop growing. It's time to flower and go to seed so that we can reproduce and grow again next year. So that's like the process that's taking place in a very very simple terms. But that's what's happening here. It's starting to get hot, so my arugula has started flowering, and it will go to seed so that it can reproduce itself and grow next year. I'm going to harvest some of this that has not gone to flower yet. I need to get out here and do this really soon. Gonna put some in the freezer, and then some of them I'm gonna leave me a little patch just to let it go to flower and collect the seeds so I can have my seeds for next year. But on this back side of the arugula, I've done another row of okra all the way down to the peppers. I stopped it at the peppers, went all the way down and stopped it at the end down here where the eggplant is. But that is the Clemson spineless. These are eggplants that I've just put in the ground a couple of days ago. They're kind of sad. They need some water. But I've got 6 eggplants here. I've got Ichabod. It makes that long, slender eggplant. I've got Millionaire, and I've got Amadeo, I believe, over there, which is just like your traditional eggplant shape. But we're not big eggplant eaters. We do like eggplant parmesan. Jean's mom used to take them and slice them up like French fries and batter them and put them in the freezer like that and then fry them. So I think I might try that, maybe try to bake them or something. But usually what ends up happening is I grow eggplant and I usually just end up giving it away. I've got amaranth seed in here with my eggplants, so hopefully that's going to help keep flea beetles off of them. That is a Chinese cabbage, and it's gone to flower. I'm just going to leave it, collect the seeds, for next year. And that's my little lunchbox orange pepper. So that's what's going on in bed number 2. This is bed number 3. So I've got, and this is where my rose archway is. That is calendula that I sowed from seed this year. Those are borage plants, so that's going to be like orange and yellow, purple. I've got black-eyed Susan vines to climb up my footboard here. I've got an orange one and a white one, so I'm going to let those climb up my footboard. Here, I just sowed zinnia seeds the other day, and this is that Queen Lime series from Baker Creek. I did a circular row of the lime, a circular row of the blush. So I did them like in rows because I want to make sure that I know which one's which when they come up, because I'm definitely going to save the seed from those. I'm so excited about those. Can't wait for them to come up. And zinnias come up quick, so I'm happy about that. This trellis, these are the trellises Jean and I made earlier this year. And I've got radishes and little cucamelons. I sowed the seed on these, gosh, about a month ago. And they're just now coming up. I knew they were slow, but I didn't know it was going to be this slow. Around my rocks there, I have nasturtiums and borage. Nasturtiums and radishes are good companions with your cucumbers. I had some collards over here. Now, I bought these plant starts of collards, and they come up great. But I had all of these rows sown in collard seeds, and it was some of that old seed, and not one of them come up. But I did end up with these. So we've been eating on these collards, which has been delicious. This trellis here, I've got some straight 8 and Market More cucumbers that I planted a few weeks ago, and they're coming up. They'll be covering these trellises soon. My little companion plant, my nasturtium there with it. These are sunflowers that voluntarily came up from last year. Last year I had sunflowers all in this section of the bed, and they volunteered. And the other day I sowed some more sunflowers. My sweet adopted grandparents, Bob and Donna Bryson, I sowed some seed from his sunflowers here the other day, so they should be coming up soon to go with those. And these are Brussels sprouts and broccoli that I planted probably around February. And they're forming their little Brussels sprouts in there. See them on the stalk there? That's where they form the Brussels sprout. They're starting. I just hope that they form and I actually get to eat these before it gets too hot. That's why I only have a few plants here. I'm figuring out how far I can push it with our springs. And down here's my broccolis. And oh, you can really see this Brussels sprout. Look in there. They're forming good. We love roasted Brussels sprouts. I like to take them, cut them in half, cover them in olive oil, sea salt, put them in the oven and bake them till they get crispy. We love Brussels sprouts like that. This is broccoli. It's making its little flower heads. So hopefully I'm gonna get some broccoli off of this. Ooh, look at that one. That one looks really good. I've got on my rows here, pink-eyed purple hull peas is what these are. So I sowed these about 2 weeks ago, and they're all up. Every one of these, and these were old seeds, so this worked. All of these came up, and those are sweet potatoes. I ran out of room in my sweet potato bed over there, and sweet potatoes and beans are good companions, so I went ahead and put them over here in my bean bed. These are sweet potatoes, Beauregard sweet potatoes, and then I have beans back there. Like I said, cucumbers will be on this trellis. And whenever I harvest all these collards, I'll be harvesting these soon. I'm gonna go ahead and put them up in the freezer too so we can eat some this summer. And whenever I harvest all these, I'll probably plant some more beans down through here. It's always good to like plant in succession. So like, you know, plant some beans, tomatoes, squash, whatever now, and then plant some more again in a few weeks. And then, you know, you prolong your season that way a little bit. Okay, let me step out of here. And then this is bed 4. And on these trellises, I've got that climbing okra. Now, I planted the seed a few weeks ago and never come up. So, I didn't soak the seed before I planted it. So, this time I soaked the seed in water. My father-in-law told me I should have soaked it in buttermilk, but I don't have buttermilk. So I soaked it in water for 24 hours and I replanted my climbing okra to grow up these trellises. I really want this climbing okra to go. I really want it to. It's got a great story and I really want to be able to save this seed and keep growing it. So, I'm praying for my climbing okra to come up, which is pretty cool. A climbing okra, that's pretty neat. So the climbing okra is on both of these trellises that Jean and I made, and I'm just absolutely loving our trellises. I love them. They add so much character to this garden. These potatoes, I planted these back in February, like the first part of February, and the first row is Yukon Gold, I think. The second row are white. The third row is red, and I ran out of room, so there's a few red over there. My kales and cabbages are a little wilty because it's so hot out here and they don't like it. But I've got some cabbage there. I only did a few cabbages too because same scenario. They are a cool season crop. They do not like our heat. Plus they get real buggy when it's this hot. But I think I'm going to be able to have some cabbage from this. I got some fermenting jars, a little fermenting kit. So I'm kind of excited to try and ferment some of this cabbage. I haven't really done a whole lot of fermenting other than my kombucha and kefir. Now I do that. But like fermenting foods, I really haven't done that. So I'm excited to give that a try. I hope I get to. I hope I get these cabbages before the worms or heat gets them. See my kale, how wilty it is? But I've got tons of kale out here, like all different kinds. I've got Premier, Red Russian, Dinosaur. I've got all different kinds of kale out here. We eat a lot of kale, a lot of kale. I'll be freezing this as well. We put it in our smoothies. I saute it. We put it in salads. We eat a lot of kale. So, kale, cabbage, and potatoes are all good companions. So I've got these all growing together here. That's bed 4. Now this is bed 5. Now this was supposed to be cover crop of sun hemp and buckwheat, but I decided I needed more okra. So we've turned this into an okra bed, and zinnias and sunflowers. So on this little end here, I've planted zinnias, and this is just a mix of zinnia seed that I collected from last year's zinnias in my garden. And these are okra rows. I've got 3 long okra rows here, and this is all Clemson spineless okra. And down here on the end, I just did a little patch of sunflowers. So I just sowed this seed about 3 days ago. It'll start coming up quick, especially with this heat. Okra and peppers really need heat. They want hot weather to grow. This is bed 6. Down at the end down there, I've got red potatoes because I ran out of room over here, and sweet potatoes. So almost all of these berms are sweet potatoes. Beauregard sweet potatoes. Behind the sweet potatoes here, I've got a row of Kentucky Wonder pole beans, and every one of them come up. I'm so excited about that. And I'm going to be training those on these trellises. And then behind the rows of sweet potatoes on this bed. And that bed, I planted Blue Lake bush beans and they never come up. So I re-sowed those again a few days ago. I'm gonna see if they'll come up. Like I said, this was all old seed, so I'm just taking a risk when I do it. But I've still got time, so if these don't come up, I can come back and I can go get some new seed and come up and do that again. I've got borage planted around my rocks here, attracting pollinators. And I forgot to tell y'all, but on this bed, the potato bed, the white, red, and yellow potato bed, on the back side of the potatoes, I planted some Roma bush beans. So I'm not familiar with these, but one of my viewers told me about them and they sound really delicious. I'm excited about them. So all of those come up. I've got those planted on the back side of all these potatoes. And over here, I planted just a few little cream peas. I've got just a little bit of seed, and it's really, really old. So I thought I would try it first just to see if it's even gonna come up in a little patch. And they did, they all come up nicely. So whenever I harvest all this kale and those cabbages, I'll be sowing cream peas all down this whole row. We love cream peas. I don't have much seed, but I'm gonna at least plant what I've got. This is bed 7, 8, and 9, and that's my arch trellis with the muscadines on it. So these 3 beds are brand new beds for us. They're new this year. So we're trying to build the soil up in them really good before we plant or try to grow anything in them. And sun hemp and buckwheat are great cover crops. They add all kinds of nutrients to the soil. Plus they are really nutritious for the chickens and the rabbits, and they love to eat it. So we'll harvest some, feed our animals, and then we will chop and drop it and let it just build up this soil. This bed right here, this is bed 9. This is buckwheat. So I only had a few buckwheat seeds, so Jean just planted like this corner here with buckwheat for me. The honeybees love buckwheat. They like sun hemp too. But he sowed this buckwheat seed for me just like, gosh, barely a week and a half ago, I think. And it's already coming up. I've got white, red, and pink. And the red and the pink is unusual. Like, I really haven't ever seen the red and pink buckwheat, so I'm really excited about this. And really, when you do buckwheat as a cover crop, you're supposed to chop and drop it before it goes to flower or seed for the nutritional value for your soil. But I am going to try and save the seed from this buckwheat. I'm going to try to harvest the seed from this buckwheat, especially the red and the pink. I really want to collect the seed from that and have it to be able to fill up my beds for cover crop in the future. You can also eat the buckwheat. It's like a grain, so you can take it and like grind it really thinly and add it to your breads or whatever. It's really nutritious. And here I've just got like this one little circle of rock because it kind of completed our little outer circle rock bed here. But this whole area, there's going to be like some little narrow beds going down that way and this way, probably only like 2 feet wide, maybe 3 feet wide at the most. And then in there is going to be a greenhouse. The beds will border and make like a little courtyard going into the greenhouse space. So in the future, probably quite a few years, we've got so many things to do and we're trying to get our farm paid off quickly. But in the future, a greenhouse will be sitting there. Until then, my garden shed and my little sawhorses will have to do. And y'all have seen the chicken tractor, and I don't have Amos out today, but he loves to get in there and exercise. Now over here on the edge of this is my medicinal herb garden that I'm starting. We started this bed this year and I'm working on it. You can see down there I've really got a good covering on this end with cardboard and hay. And I've run out of cardboard, so I'm just trying to collect a little each time I can and add down through here and just kill out these weeds and grass with cardboard and hay here. But so far I've got in here some roses. I've got 4 different roses. I've got Hansa, Basie's Blueberry, down there is Old Blush, and Katy Road Pink. And those are 4 great medicinal roses because they make big rose hips. So I'm going to use these for their rose hips to make rose hip tea. It's really high in vitamin C. I've got that Clary Sage I showed you a little bit earlier. I've got some California poppies coming up from the seed we sowed earlier. And there's lemongrass, lemon verbena. Let's see, my friend Alex from work brought me a couple of mullein plants. So I've got one planted down here. It needs a little water. That is a great medicinal herb. If we can just find it on the side of our roads growing. But it's got a really neat, it's a lot like lamb's ear, but it's got a really neat, soft leaf. Shoots up a yellow flower. And I've got one little dianthus stuck down here. But this whole thing is going to be my medicinal herb garden. I'm really trying to focus in and study a lot on using herbs medicinally. I use a lot of essential oils. I mean, that's just part of our life, essential oils. I use those like religiously. But I'm also like really studying plants and plant medicine. And as I study and learn something, I'm just gonna try to apply it to my medicinal garden here. So I'm super excited about this. This is gonna definitely be a work in progress. Right now I'm still just trying to get my beds covered with cardboard and hay and try to kill out the grass and the weeds. And I've got a few things in here that I already use, like lemon balm, lemon verbena, lemongrass tea, mullein, and then these roses for the rose hip tea. Plus I also take the rose hips and add them to my elderberry cough syrup that I make. So it just is not only an immune builder, but it also just adds a lot of vitamin C. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed the cottage garden tour and the potager garden tour. And if you did enjoy those videos and you'd like to go check out some of my other videos, I'd be most grateful. I've got all kinds of videos on different plants and the history of those plants, and growing vegetables and herbs, and planting roses and farm animals and honeybees, and we've got all kinds of different videos out there of different things that we have going on here at the farm. And I would love for you to go check out those videos. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, if you would, please go and subscribe to our channel so that you can be notified whenever I do put up a new video, and give us a thumbs up if you like our videos. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. God bless you. I hope you have a beautiful day.
That's the best tasting carrot I ever had.